everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am coming back today with yet another Hobonichi Cousin video, probably one of my favourite topics. And as you've probably seen from the title, this is basically a load of different ideas of how to use the different sections of the Hobonichi Cousin if you're not using them for kind of strictly day-to-day planning. The Cousin is a wonderful planner, but there is a lot to it. There's a lot of pages to fill, there's a lot of different sections, and for some people, they really want the planner but can't necessarily work out how to use all the sections because potentially they don't have a huge amount of plans, or think that they can't necessarily fill the weekly pages, never mind the daily pages as well. So I thought I'd bring together kind of my favourite ways to use some of the sections, or rather to use all of the sections in a non-typical planning way. Hopefully, if you are mulling over a Cousin for next year but you're worried that you won't necessarily be able to fill it or use all the pages, that doesn't really matter. Like, blank pages don't really faze me, but if it phases you or you don't feel like you'll be able to get the full use out of all these pages in the Cousin, hopefully some of these ideas will kind of give you a bit of food for thought and potentially make you think, actually, yeah, I could probably fill one of these up next year. Without further ado, let's get straight into some of the ideas. So, in case you haven't seen the Hobonichi Cousin before, and you haven't seen any of my videos on the Cousin, this is my current 2023 version in my one star leather cover, and I wanted to talk about this layout first. It's a very simple layout. It's just a simple overview of the year. It's not something you necessarily have to use. However, I do find that there's a couple of good uses for this, just to feel like it's not something that I just skip straight past, and that's for things like bank holidays and work holidays. So generally at the start of the year I will put in the bank holidays, and it's just handy to have somewhere that's got the bank holidays, because there'll be an occasion where you're like, oh, when's Easter, and you just need to quickly find it. If everything is in here, then you know that there's one location for it. I then will use it for things like paydays as well, and also then any other holidays that I book kind of through work, and that's where generally there'll be a sticky note that says how many holidays that I've got left to book and things like that. So there's some kind of planning elements to it, but as a bare minimum, just popping in the bank holidays I find really handy, because it's always just one of those things that you always want to hand and then never have it when you need it. The next page in the Cousin is this kind of yearly overview. So you get it for the full year, and there's so many different ways of using this, and this is actually one year in 2020 that I tried a few different ways to kind of see what I liked, and it's ended up being quite a good spread for this video to kind of give hopefully quite a few different ideas. So you get the kind of bit at the top with some boxes, and then you also get empty space along the bottom. I haven't really used that much in any of my planners. I do tend to just use the bulk of it is here. One way that I do find quite common, that I do see a lot of people using this for, is habit tracking. So just writing your habits there, and then obviously kind of cross it off or tick it, or some people use kind of color coding, but that's a really good way. This is one where I used it to track my weights, because I was doing some lifting, so I just was tracking the weight and reps and things like that. This was, I believe it was content ideas, or yeah, I think it was Instagram content ideas, and yeah, just a case of writing in what I intended to post on Instagram or the blog or whatever it was in that date. This was weight tracking. This was so it's kind of what I mentioned before about some people like to color code instead of doing the X. I did this, but this was for skincare. Around this time I was doing kind of a bit of the Korean 10-step regime and using quite a few different actives, and didn't want to be using them too often, so this worked out really well just to kind of track what I was using and when. You can also use this for medication. If you do have something that you don't need to take every day, you can just track that. And then the last one was my calorie intake. Quite a few different ways there. The way that I always go back to for using these pages though is as an index. It'll kind of become more clear when I show you some ideas for the daily pages, but just if you haven't, again, apologies if this is repetition, because you see my videos and you know how I do indexing, but for those that don't, I basically write what's on the corresponding daily page in the planner here. so that if I am looking for a certain thing, I know exactly where I've written it. So actually I did it the other day in my current planner where I knew I'd made a note of some prices or something. I looked at the index, found it, went straight to it, didn't have to rifle through 300 pages finding where I'd written it. So yeah, these pages are probably, in my opinion, some of the most flexible in terms of the different ways you can use them. And from there, you then go onto the monthly pages, and we're now getting into the pages that can be used for more traditional planning, but also have a really good number of ways that can be used kind of alternatively. This was my 2021 year, and for the bulk of this year, or at least I think the first half, I effectively used these pages for, it was a combo, so it might have been one month as a bit of a daily highlight, so just something that I did that day so that when I was scrapbooking I knew what I did when and which pictures to put or which ephemera to kind of match up. Other days I used it for a bit of gratitude. I did use it, you know, just to kind of use some of my stickers as well, because I've got quite a big sticker stash, so it was kind of a sticker of the day and then a little note about what happened. But this is a really good way of using monthlies if you have other ways of kind of, you know, planning appointments and things like that, or you don't necessarily need the space, maybe you just want to put it on your weeklies, then yeah, this is a really good idea for monthlies. And it's quite nice to flick through when you finished it, you know, flick through the whole year at once and kind of just, you know, have that snapshot of what happened through the year. Particularly if you do use stickers, it makes it nice and colourful, or, you know, colour coding in terms of, you know, different subjects. So maybe it was a, you know, a good work thing in a certain colour, or a good home thing, or yeah, I do enjoy kind of having, yeah, so I did only do it for the first half of the year, but yeah, it is quite nice to flick through. So good idea if you don't want to use your monthly pages for traditional planning. So for those of you that prefer daily planning, the weekly pages might be the pages that probably give you the most kind of pause when it comes to this planner, because there's obviously 52, well, it's more than 52 weeks worth, but it's a lot of pages to effectively not use if you only want to use the daily pages for your planning. I actually find the layout of these pages are quite good for kind of, it's kind of note taking, so using it as a notebook essentially, but the way that there's columns, if you kind of, you know, cover up the days, it works quite nicely for kind of categorized notes. So this was a spread from a couple of years ago where basically I had kind of plans of things that I wanted to do in each room, in terms of a to-do list and things I wanted to replace or update, and so it allowed me to have kind of like nice, neat to-do lists. Same with, I think this is some sticker planning I was doing, so I kind of, you know, I had sticker ideas for monthly kits and general kits and functional, etc. So I put the, you know, corresponding idea onto the column. It was just a nice way to use up some weekly pages that I didn't necessarily need. And yeah, I do find like the columns and the way it's set out, it works well with my brain, particularly if you do have something with a lot of layers to it. You could also use this for kind of project planning if you are working on, you know, like a big home renovation project or something like that. It just, the layout of the pages really do lend itself to some quite kind of neat layouts and neat ways of thinking. Obviously the other way you can use these weekly pages is, although it technically is planning, for me I use these sometimes as a bit of a creative outlet. So even if I've been planning maybe in my weeks and done kind of more, you know, what I'd call proper planning, I might then go back and plan in these pages just for some creative outlet basically. So, you know, get the sticker kits out, play with colours, make it look pretty, you know, make it look good for the gram. But it's quite a nice outlet for me sometimes, particularly if I've been quite busy with work and I haven't felt like I've had a lot of time to do creative things like painting or drawing or making cards. Then, you know, spending an hour or so just, you know, effectively back planning the previous week and making it look nice, it's a nice bit of, you know, creativity for me. And if you're not a huge fan of, you know, traditional scrapbooking or that kind of thing, you might find that just getting some stickers out and planning in this way, or even not planning, kind of, I suppose it's a bit of memory keeping, you might find quite enjoyable. If you've got a lot of stickers that you've, you know, accumulated over the years and maybe you don't plan in that way as much anymore, this is also a good way to use them up. If you've seen any of my videos before, you'll have probably heard me talk about the Cousin daily pages. because I basically use these pages for everything but planning. There will be the odd day where I might do a bit of planning in it. Maybe I just want to try something different, or maybe I have a busy day where actually I do need kind of the full page for my plans. But generally, these pages are used like a notebook. Anything and everything goes in here: shop and blog planning, holiday planning, comparing the costs of something that I want to buy, random things that I want to keep pictures of, you know, kind of inspiration for Instagram or for the house or something like that. It all goes in here, and I love that I have a place for it that is kept all together. I hate having, you know, millions of notebooks on the go or scrappy bits of post-it notes that I then can't find. I like having everything all together so that if I do, you know, want to know, you know, what ideas I had, or, you know, what this blog post plan was, you know, even later down the line, I know that it's in here somewhere, and I can generally just go to the index to find it. And yeah, it's very quick, very easy, everything's all together, no mess, no fuss, done. And I can't, like, the year that I didn't have a Hobonichi Cousin, I really struggled with that because I didn't really have anywhere to put things like that, and it was kind of spread over various different bits and pieces. And even now, if you saw my video or have seen any of my recent videos on the Cousin, because this is so chunky, I am kind of struggling to write in the daily spare pages now, so I am kind of leaning on other notebooks, and it's getting a bit erratic and I really don't like it. So I will be moving into my 2023 Cousin basically ASAP, just so that I know I have somewhere for all my notes, because this is just, it's too unruly. But yeah, that's kind of the big one in terms of daily pages. Kind of, if you are a bullet journaler, then probably collections is the other way of calling it. But then the other one that we kind of saw probably a few pages on is journaling or scrapbooking or memory keeping, however you want to call it. Different people call it different things. I kind of do a combo of everything really. I basically just stick stickers in of, sorry, I call it stickers, it's because I print my photos on sticker paper. But generally what I'll do is just paste in pictures from the day. Maybe I might, you know, write a note about something that happened. I might stick in some ephemera, so like if I went to a coffee shop, you know, and it came with a sticker on the cup, I might stick that in there, or on a shopping bag or something. But yeah, that's another big way that I use my dailies. And one thing that I found again this year is I've probably done more of that than ever, which is why this one is so much thicker in comparison to this one. So if you haven't seen my video about the 2024 lineup, I am keeping my Cousin for next year, but it will just be for the notes and for the common placing. The scrapbooking and memory keeping is going in a completely different planner because I can't have it chunking up this much. And that is it for my kind of garbled overview of some of my favourite ways to use a Hobonichi Cousin if you don't want to use it for kind of strict planning, or if there's a section that you know you won't use for planning. Hopefully that gave you a few good ideas. If you have used any elements of the planner in slightly different ways that I haven't mentioned, drop them in the comments. I always love to hear different ideas of how to use planners, and I may even take it forward for 2024, because my Cousin for 2024 will basically not be used for pretty much any planning. So yeah, I'm happy to hear lots of ideas. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye.